Hello, it's me, real Philip Carter, which implies there might be another Philip Carter somewhere in the universe who isn't real. Today, this is a new podcast format. I'm going to just talk to my phone. I could do podcasts over there on my computer, but I figured you might want to see my face. You can spend the next few minutes of this video counting the hairs on it. Anyway, today I'm going to be complaining. If you're a writer and you share memes on Twitter about how miserable writing makes you, I'm going to be complaining about you, specifically. Your life choices, and why I think they're so shit. There's a few popular writers in the writing community who tend to just share memes these days. All they do is share memes. I mean, they have the odd novel out every now and again, and I imagine people do buy them. I don't know if anybody reads them, because I know people that have bought books just because they like the person who wrote the book. That's happened to me before. People have said, that meme was really funny you posted about the dog chewing a baby's head so it winds up with a strange shaped head and then it can only think strange shaped thoughts. So I've bought your book to support you. That was a real thing that happened. But anyway, my point is that there's writers at the moment, and they're perpetuating a sickness in the writing community whereby people are just complaining about writing. And the strange thing is, you could just get a job in an office. You could be a regular person. You don't have to take this high risk thing in your life. But I think the reason a lot of people get into writing and they don't just tolerate being miserable about it, they actively enjoy it in a sort of fetishistic way. I don't even know if that's a real word anymore. It doesn't matter. I'm a writer. I've decided it is a word. You can't do anything about it. I've got a master's degree. There you go. There's a meme. That's a fairly positive meme. You could put that on a shirt. People would buy that from Etsy, wouldn't they? £55 for a shirt that says, I've got a master's degree, therefore I don't make grammar errors. I reinvent language. Something like that. That's positive. It has a positive angle to it. It's a shit meme because I just improvised it, but it's positive. My point is that there's a lot of memes going around at the moment, and you'll have probably seen them where it has this idea like, oh, there's 4 steps to being a writer. Number 1, have an idea. Number 2, think about the idea in a coffee shop as your wife goes out with somebody else. Number 3, cry into the shower. Number 4, don't actually do any writing and just post memes on Twitter. And people find that really funny, and they shouldn't. Not least because it's quite boring as comedy goes, but because it is glamorizing this miserable lifestyle where you're not actually a writer. And I'm going to get a bit gatekeepy here. If you're not writing at all, you might not be a writer. You might be a daydreamer. It's okay to daydream. I used to daydream a lot when I was a kid. I started writing when I was 5 years old, like most writers do. Like most artists, you kind of know where you're going from the beginning and then life gets in the way. So I was actually going to try and become a marine biologist before this whole book thing happened. I realized I was too funny for my own good, so I needed to, I wouldn't have survived in a regular kind of office environment. I would have just pissed people off. So I decided to make my career in pissing people off, which is why this video exists. But yeah, I'm seeing a lot on Twitter at the moment where I've met a lot of really great writers, but you always bump into somebody who's sharing these memes where it says like, what was the last one? There's that 4-step one, but there was another one. It said like how it feels to write for 10 years and then for nobody to buy your book. And it's just like an anime character stood in the rain. And I'm like, yeah, it does feel like that sometimes. But the fact that everybody's sharing a meme about it kind of normalizes it. It doesn't have to be that way. I remember on my first day of uni, one of the tutors said that, statistically there was quite a low chance that all of us, in fact, it was basically statistically impossible that all of us would make a living from writing. And I found that hilarious, not least because I was still drunk from the night before, but because I did find it funny. I thought, well, there's no real reason why writers can't make at least enough to survive and have a decent little house. off books. I mean, there's issues with traditional publishing that I'm not going to get into in this video. I think writers deserve to be paid more of a cut for the amount of effort they put in over, marketing teams and people. Self-publishing, you tend to get a little bit more, which is why I do it. I need to sell less books than the average traditionally published author to make the same amount of money, which is nice. But yeah, there's just this culture at the moment of people just sharing really miserable memes about how annoying, I don't know, plotting is, for example. They'll talk about plotting. They'll go, "Oh, I'm a pantser, not a plotter. I can't plot books. I'm writing a trilogy of novels at the moment, and it has really deep world building, and I'm really struggling with it, and I hate it, and it makes me miserable, and I wish I never became a writer." And I'm like, why don't musicians ever say this? Why don't you ever hear people go, "You know what? I'm going to sell the saxophone on eBay. I want to be an engineer." You don't hear that because they don't whine. They don't sit and whine. They just fucking go and do it. Like, I got bored of something once a long time ago and I decided not to do it again. And I just moved on to the next thing. The issue with being a creative writer, sitting down and writing, is that a lot of people have this idea in their head, and it's a completely false idea, of this wispy, pale mailman. Mailmen. You're probably familiar with them. Leaning over a typewriter in a black and white room, and he's clacking away at the keys, and he's writing this amazing novel about how long it takes his wife to eat a yogurt. And most of the novel is descriptions of people peeling fruit. And a newspaper will probably call it brave and stunning. And everybody will buy a copy, and it'll be in all these middle-class second bathrooms. And nobody will read the thing because nobody wants to read a novel about yogurts while you're having a shit. And, it's just not going to happen. I'll get on to... I've got a point in my next video. I have a theory about why all the new postmodern novels have yogurt scenes in them. And it's disgusting. It won't fit in this video. But be here for it. It's going to affect you in there and also downstairs. It's not pleasant. I forgot what my point was. Yeah, so you can write your big novel, and then you complain, "Oh, I can't write novels. I find it really difficult." Well, but you did it. You're doing it, even though you find writing difficult sometimes. Evidenced by the memes that you're posting, you're still doing it. You're still getting up every day, sitting down at your computer or your notepad, going for a walk, going to a cafe, wherever the fuck you do it. It's 2023. I'm not here to judge. You can write in a cafe if you want. I might still think you're a bit of a twat, but that's okay. I am a bit of a twat too. So you go out, you write your postmodern poetry novella about your ex-girlfriend and how curvy she was and how her curves remind you of the grass in Switzerland or some shit. And then you go on Twitter and you don't talk to people about the book. Why? Nobody knows. What you do instead is you post a meme about how miserable writing the book made you. And I'll be honest, for your readers, they're looking at that and going, well, if it made them miserable, it's sure as hell going to make me miserable. I'm probably not going to buy that because I'm miserable enough already. But other than that, you're reprogramming yourself every time you've finished a project to immediately think negative thoughts. Immediately. You go, right, I finished a book. Okay, how can I complain about this in a way that's quirky and can be shown in an Instagram carousel post? And then you make your little memes and you post them out and people are like, oh, she's just finished another fantasy novel, but now she wants to kill herself. Wow, I'm not going to buy that because I'm already unstable enough, So not only are you shooting yourself in the foot by being miserable, like financially, you're shooting yourself in the foot by being miserable because you have to wake up with yourself every day. Doesn't matter. Your boyfriend, your girlfriend leaves you. Great. You get a new poetry collection out about it. Brilliant. There's plenty of publishers that'll pick that up. It'll be amazing for a few weeks. But if you stay in that mindset where you're like, right, writing makes me grumpy. I'm going to talk about how grumpy it makes me in a meme. You're stuck in that mindset. I love writing. I love it. Absolutely love it. I'm going to go and do some right now after this video. And it's about a shape-shifting alien crab who falls in love with an American soldier in Area 51 in 1952. And I'm enjoying it. Is it difficult sometimes? Yes. The research is really difficult, even though it's technically in an alternate universe and it doesn't need to be that historically accurate. I'd like it if it was a bit historically accurate. Therefore, I'm putting a lot of time and energy into the research part of it. And that's difficult. But do I hate it? No. Is there anything from writing that I really hate? No, I don't think so. I don't actually hate any of it. I find some of it really difficult. Like the marketing, for example, I am quite shit at. And that's evidenced by the fact I'm only moving like one book every week, which is pretty good considering I've not got any ads turned on anymore. But it'd be nice if it was more than that, because then I'd be able to afford more food. And I like food. But yeah, every time I see these memes that go around the writing community about how miserable writing makes people, I think you could just quit. Just quit. And that's honestly in some of my writing classes, because I teach those as well. They're paid, by the way. This isn't an advert for that. We'll ignore that. We'll skip over that. We'll forget the last 30 seconds. But even if you really hate certain parts of writing, you don't necessarily have to put yourself through them. Here's the secret. You can actually walk away from a manuscript. I was writing the Stephanie Glitch in 2016. I finished it. I submitted it to publishers. They didn't pick it up. I realised that I wanted the character of Stephanie to be more defined. And I actually realised at the time, I had this thought, and I spoke to my tutor about it. I want to be a better writer when I'm writing this book. And I said, I'm going to take a few weeks off. That became a few months, and then some family stuff happened, so it became a few years. Then I wrote Who Built the Humans in the meantime. That got quite popular. And then people started looking back through my old posts and they're like, what was the Stephanie Glitch? You were talking about a book a year ago. Why aren't you talking about it anymore? And I told them, I wanted to be a better writer by the time it came out. So I did. I waited. I practiced. And I put that project down, and it hurt me. I didn't want to do it. But there wasn't a single point where I thought, I'm going to go on Twitter and tell people that I've quit writing this project. And yeah, sure, a bit of melodrama can be useful, especially on social media, where you're basically rewarded for being sort of narcissistic, sort of grumpy. And if you have a sob story, people will click like on it more likely than if you've just had a happy day. It's weird because, if people say their dog got sick, they'll get more traction for their book on social media than if they post about how they've got their book in a bookstore after 3 years of trying really hard. So I get it. I understand the subconscious psychological motivations for posting these memes about how miserable writing might make you. But it actually does affect me. I'll admit to that. It does upset me to see writers that I know putting in loads of effort into writing, and then they share these memes. But the memes don't even align with the reality half the time. Like, you'll speak to somebody and they'll go, I really enjoyed writing that last novel. It was difficult, but I really liked the bit where the final fight scene, it's 17 pages long, and I had to research sword fighting techniques from the 16th century. And it was really difficult, but I spoke to this guy who's got a PhD in Cambridge, and he was teaching me all about, how they made the swords. And you'll have these wonderful conversations with people in private, but then in public they go, how it feels to write a fantasy novel and not enough people buy the fantasy novel, so now I have to cry in the bath. And it's like, again, picture of an anime character in the rain. And I just think, come on, seriously? You don't have to hate writing. And if you do hate it, if you're determined to make it make you miserable, if you want to remain miserable, go right ahead. But for the love of God, stop showing other people how miserable it makes you feel, because it's just making more people miserable. There's like this, it's almost a fetish for people being grumpy about writing. Like, you don't need to be grumpy about writing. You can enjoy it. It's okay to enjoy things. You're allowed to enjoy writing. I love it. All my friends love it. Is it difficult sometimes? Of course it is. I actually make it difficult on purpose. When I was writing Who Built the Humans, and it's got 47 chapters that can be read in any direction, It took me about 3 months of the development time to work out the ordering of the stories. I cut them out, printed them out, and I cut them out into little strips, each story, and then, a little synopsis, how it would relate to the other stories. So if somebody read the book left to right, it would unfold like a flower, and then if they read it universe by universe, because the 47 stories take part in 11 universes, it would unfold a different way, and there would be jokes. So if you finished one universe and then the next one across the pages was a different universe, it had to have a different tone. So I made it so that there's no two chapters from the same universe like that on the pages. There's always another universe in between, and it kind of built up like that, so it was layered. And that took 3 months, and it was really difficult. Not least because I pissed off like 2 of my pre-order customers by saying, look, I want this book to be really good. I'm going to give myself another 3 months to polish it. And they were like, oh, we thought it was done already. I went, no, that's not what a pre-order means. But yeah, and that was in the middle of the pandemic as well. And that was difficult because I had 2, maybe 3. Was it 2? Anyway, I had multiple launches booked. I was going to go to different bars and poetry events because there's comedy poems in it as well. And I was going to try and sell a few copies. And that they got cancelled during COVID. And then after COVID, the venues or the events that I was going to go to kind of changed their tone with what they wanted to do arts-wise in the future. And I no longer fit in. And then for like a year and a half, I was playing catch-up and fixing the metadata and the search engine optimization of stuff because I self-published it through Lulu and then moved to Amazon, which caused a lot of complications. Even today, I'm still waiting on Goodreads to change my cover from the old cover to the one that's currently in circulation. So there are difficult parts in writing, but all of that, I've seen all of it as a kind of fun science experiment, I chose self-publishing. I knew it would be difficult. And if you really don't like it, this is one of the things I teach people in my writing classes. I'll let you know this for free. If you really don't like it, you can quit. Is that going to knacker my profits as a creative writing tutor? Potentially. But I'd rather you be happy than being lied to. If you really hate a project, you can quit. If you really hate writing as a whole, if the memes are true, then you can quit. You don't need to be sat on Twitter reposting stuff, hoping that you'll get one book sale out of it, because to be honest, every writer on Twitter has 15,000 followers, and every single one of those 15,000 people is another writer who in turn follows 15,000 people and has 15,000 followers themselves. So the chances of you being noticed aren't very high on Twitter. You need to write for fun again. That's the end message here. You need to write for fun. Enjoy yourself. How about you tell yourself you're not going to publish the next short story or poem. It's just going to be for you. Nobody else gets to see it. Try it. You'll see how freeing that is when you're not weighed down by the social expectations from big name authors to be miserable. Because they want you miserable. It helps their sales. Because it appeals, these memes that they post out, it appeals to, the base emotions that you have. You're a struggling writer. You may potentially be jealous of their success. You want their success. Or at least for somebody to tell you that your book is good because you've spent years on it, decades even. And you want somebody to tell you it's good, and then they show you these memes about how miserable writing makes them, and you think, oh my god, I'm miserable too. We've got so much in common. Let's be miserable together. Let's share a miserable meme. And it's a kind of weird community misery. But you don't need to participate in that. You can find enjoyment through writing, and you might necessarily have to find it by not being as social as you usually are, and just writing stuff for you. A spider's just got in my room from outside. Hello, Mr. Spider. Okay, I think I've made a lot of points. Been quite rambly. It'd be interesting to see who gets all the way to this part, because if you did get this far, please comment. Hello, Mr. Philip. My legs are made out of bees. And then I'll know that you've seen this far ahead. Writing can be fun. It doesn't have to be miserable. You don't have to share really grumpy writing memes all the time. I love writing. I don't necessarily love seeing other writers being miserable. So that's why I made this video. If you're following a big name author who's sharing memes about how writing makes you sad, unfollow them for your own mental health, not just for your sales. Because, you want to look like you've enjoyed your book, because then your readers will go, oh, he enjoyed writing it. It must be a load of fun. Rather than, I've written this poetry collection, it made me want to electrocute myself. And then your readers are like, oh, wow, electrocuting myself sounds like a real fun time. That's not going to happen. I've seen it happen at live poetry readings where people go, oh, I've got this book. It's took me a while to, I don't, the poems that I've got in my pocket are a bit better, so I'm going to read these anyway. But the book's on sale after the show if you want to come and buy it. And then they read a poem out that's not from the book, which straight away is showing everybody in the audience that the author's not confident in that book. They think that book is shit. And then even the few people that are still interested, when they meander around the bar afterwards trying to find a poet, guess what? The poet's long since gone home because he's got memes to post on Twitter and he can't afford 4G. So he has to go home, get on his Wi-Fi and go. That feeling when you go to a poetry reading and you show people that you have got a poetry book and they do not buy the poetry book, even though you told them how sad it made you feel and how miserable you are. It's a kind of weird narcissistic thing, isn't it? It's like being miserable as a marketing technique. And I think that's what some of these big name authors are doing, but they're not making themselves miserable as a marketing technique. They're appearing to be miserable. But what they're really doing is, I don't even know if they're consciously aware of it, they're making you and me sadder by existing. Just by posting these memes about, oh yeah, I'm a pantser, not a plotter, so I can't write anything longer than 5,000 words because it confuses me. That's not true. All your limits as an artist, especially as a writer, they're in there. You can break them. You can just power straight through them. Just ignore them. Just straight up ignore them. Pretend they don't exist for a day. Sit down and pretend you're your favourite writer. And just write like them. Not like in their style, but as prolific as you think they are. Just try something new. If you're stuck on a story, walk away from the story. In fact, try to stop yourself from writing. And then when you have an idea, you're going to get so pissed off with your day-to-day life that you're going to go, no, I'm going to write right now. I'm not doing the vacuuming. I'm not doing the dishes. I'm not going to work. I'm going to write right now. I'm taking a day off. And you'll go and do it. It's a weird life hack to have. Sometimes works for me. But yeah, stop posting miserable memes. Stop it. You don't need to be miserable. You stop making yourself miserable. Is the point. That's the point. This video was only meant to be like 2 minutes long, but I'm tired of seeing the miserable writing memes. That face when you make a 22-minute long video and nobody watches it because you're not a well-known writer yet. There you go. You share that as a meme. Have that as your little GIF. Just write the fucking story. Stop watching this video. Write the fucking story. Stop posting the memes. Go, write. Go, leave. Leave right now for the love of Christ and the other ones. Make up some of your own. Start a new religion. Write a poetry book backwards. Write the middle of a novel and refuse to write the beginning and the ending. Write the end of a novel and refuse to write the beginning. Write a poem just for you on a piece of paper and then flush it down the toilet at an expensive restaurant. There are many ways to do writing, and all of them are probably right as long as they work for you. That's it. You don't need to stick yourself into this box of, oh, I'm going to be a fancy poet in a black and white room with a girlfriend who doesn't love me, and I'm going to type poems about her and she's never going to read them because she's too busy eating a yogurt in the cafe. Oh, type. And no, nobody winds up like that. And if they do wind up like that, nobody wants to hang out with them because they're boring. You can be you, be yourself, and write the thing that you want to write. Don't write to trend either. Fuck the trends. Fuck them. Bye.